Urgent! Ukraine has achieved the impossible. The hellish trap has worked. Syrskyi has revealed the truth. No one has ever done what the Ukrainian armed forces have done. A sudden breakthrough on the front. Meanwhile, shocking news from Donetsk. The Russians have done something terrible. It will affect all of Ukraine. Right now, we will tell you the most important updates from the front. This will surprise you.
Long-suffering Kherson is once again under a massive attack by Russian occupiers. The day before, the enemy dropped 2 guided aerial bombs on the city, aiming to destroy the local bridge. As a result of the attacks, the road crossing leading to the Korabel neighborhood was seriously damaged. As can be seen in the footage, the bridge sustained serious damage with a gaping hole in the middle of the roadway. Nevertheless, the crossing has withstood the attack.
The bridge itself here.
Regarding the bridge, yes, there was a hit on the bridge. Russian propaganda has already managed to spread a fake about the destruction of the bridge, but it is still standing. Indeed, the bridge has sustained some damage. The roadway has been damaged.
By dropping a bomb on the only overpass leading to the Korabel neighborhood and cutting off the gas pipeline, the occupiers have trapped the residents of Kherson. Local authorities are urging residents to evacuate, as due to the serious damage to the bridge, it will be difficult to deliver food and other essential goods to the neighborhood for the time being.
There are certain logistical problems precisely because of the damage to this roadway. This affects the delivery of food and medicine, as well as the ability of emergency medical services and all other services to get in and out. It is precisely because of these logistical issues that we are emphasizing the need to consider evacuation from the Korabel neighborhood.
Meanwhile, local volunteers have already tested the damaged bridge for stability. After driving around the crater, they managed to reach the other side. However, it is unknown how long the crossing will last in this condition. The Kherson Regional State Administration also does not rule out repeated attempts by the occupiers to destroy the crossing, especially since the Russians have recently been resorting to new tactics of terror. According to the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrskyi, the most difficult situation on the front today is in the Pokrovsk, Dobropilya and Novopavlivka directions. The Russian army is using the tactic of total infiltration there and increasing sabotage activities behind the lines.
The enemy is intensifying efforts to capture our key agglomerations, searching for weak points in our defense, and conducting active combat operations simultaneously in several directions. In this way, they are trying to enter, in particular, Pokrovsk. However, Russian sabotage and small infantry groups are being neutralized. To effectively counter sabotage and reconnaissance groups, we have created and are deploying anti-sabotage reserves, whose task is to search for and destroy enemy sabotage groups.
By the way, our defenders from the anti-sabotage reserve announced by Syrskyi can already boast their first results. Thus, in temporarily occupied Melitopol, GOR agents blew up a car carrying Kadyrovites. This unique operation was caught on video. It is known that the partisans managed to plant explosives in the occupiers' minivan, after which it exploded. At the moment of the explosion, fighters from the Akhmat unit were inside the vehicle. As a result of the detonation, at least 5 Kadyrovites were killed. The explosion also wounded 2 invaders who were in a neighboring vehicle and destroyed a mobile electronic warfare complex. Thanks to the brilliant work of our defenders, the occupiers also experienced the shortest triumph of the entire war in Ukraine. It took exactly 24 hours for the fighters of the main intelligence directorate to drive the Russians out of the positions where they had hastily arranged a photo shoot with the tricolor. We are talking about the settlement of Zelania Russia in the Donetsk region. There, after capturing the settlement, Russian soldiers tried to reach the borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region and, in their excitement, hurried to report their success. However, just a day later, it was already the fighters of the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine taking photos in the same spot. Nevertheless, analysts at Deep State are forced to admit that despite everything, the pace of the occupiers' advance on the front has not slowed. In July, it was roughly at the same level as in June. The Russian army managed to capture 564 square kilometers of our land. The analysts also broke down all directions of the front, clearly showing what percentage of lost territory and what percentage of assault actions fall on each of them. According to the statistics, the Pokrovsk and Sumy directions are the least effective for the Russian army. After all, it is precisely there that the enemy has to attack more often to achieve any success. However, the Novopavlivka direction is the most problematic for the Ukrainian armed forces. There, the enemy achieves greater success with fewer losses. For the other sections of the front, the breakdown is almost 1-to-1. And there's one more unpleasant piece of news from the front. The occupiers are doing everything they can to restore Donetsk airport in order to use it in the war against Ukraine. This is evidenced by recent satellite images. The fortifications that previously blocked the runway of what was once an international airport have already been covered over, indicating a likely preparation for its reuse. Construction work can be seen on the grounds of the former parking lots. Analysts suggest that a fuel and technical base is being prepared there. In addition, there is preliminary information about individual launches of Russian attack drones from the territory of the Donetsk air hub. And finally, some extremely discouraging news for the occupiers and for Putin personally. Ukraine has likely blown up the Kremlin's main gas pipeline in the Volgograd region. This concerns a section of the Central Asia Center pipeline, the third longest in the world. It is not directly stated yet that the explosion was carried out specifically by Ukrainian special services, but all indications point to this. According to analysts, the operation was likely carried out thanks to GUR agents in Russia.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
That's all! Chechnya is literally being torn apart. Kadyrov has disappeared. The entire Caucasus is in an uproar. The Chechens did not expect this from their so-called leader. But the desperate attempts of his associates to save the situation have failed. Where is Kadyrov now? The answer to this question surprised everyone. Watch this.
First he almost drowned and now he's disappeared. Ramzan Kadyrov, who nearly lost his life at one of the foreign resorts, has not been in contact for a week. It all started with a sensational report in the Turkish media.
Around noon on July 24th, 48-year-old Kadyrov, who was vacationing at a luxurious hotel in the Kaynar district, went for a swim in the sea. As soon as he entered the water, he suddenly began to feel unwell. He started having trouble breathing. The Chechen Tsar was practically drowning. The hotel staff reacted instantly. Noticing that their high-profile guest was suffocating, the employees called for medical services and the Coast Guard. Coast Guard officers rushed to help, pulled the drowning Kadyrov out of the water onto the shore, and handed him over to the medics.
It would seem to be just an ordinary accident, but investigators noticed far too many inconsistencies in this story, especially regarding the rescuers who rushed to pull Ramzan out of the water. As an untouchable figure, he always travels on such trips surrounded by dozens of bodyguards who, in addition, also provide backup for the FSO officers. It's simply impossible to believe that there wasn't a single swimmer among them.
Any rescuer who dared to get within arm's reach of him would have undoubtedly ended up beyond anyone's help. This is because Turkey is also home to a truly huge number of both innocent victims of the Kadyrov regime itself, as well as the children of those individuals whom the Kadyrovites brutally tortured to death, severely abused, or tragically killed. Accordingly, the security measures implemented around Kadyrov there are simply extraordinary and exceptionally stringent.
And it gets even more interesting. A few days later, while the rescued Kadyrov showed no signs of life, insider information began to surface. According to one of these reports, he didn't even try to go into the water. The illness struck the Don right on the shore.
Information started circulating among law enforcement saying that in fact things were much worse. His health was already in bad shape even when he was still on the shore. So he didn't swim, and they say that even in his current condition he wouldn't have been able to swim at all. Ambulances arrived, a lot of ambulances in fact. Apparently, well again, I definitely wasn't there myself. But basically he had health problems, they packed him up and took him away.
And here the question arises, what exactly happened? So, according to one of the most popular versions today, Chechen security forces staged a real performance just to secretly take the head of the Republic out for emergency medical treatment. After all, rumors about his poor health have been circulating for quite some time.
I suspect that this was about Kadyrov being hospitalized somewhere in Turkey because without a doubt the sanctions have primarily hit Russian healthcare. And apparently this whole story about his drowning and rescue, a man who is never left alone for even a second, he simply couldn't have drowned or choked on water when he's always surrounded by people, the most modest of whom probably holds one of the highest swimming qualifications. Accordingly, I believe this is just a special operation to legitimize his presence in Turkey.
According to the official version, after Kadyrov was brought back to normal condition, he flew back to Chechnya. And this cover story was also prepared in advance. For example, on the eve of July 30th, Ramzan Kadyrov posted a photo on his social media where he is playing chess with his son. However, it's hard to tell when the photo was actually taken. The greenery outside the window, judging by its shade, looks more like spring. And the fact that Kadyrov's son is wearing a hoodie, let me point out, it's over 30 degrees in Grozny right now. Well, this outfit suggests that the photo was taken in advance.
In general, lately he has put quite a lot of effort into proving that he is alive. All of this was happening against the backdrop of Kadyrov sharply reducing his work activity in recent months. After April 8th, he only personally held meetings twice, on July 4th and July 14th. Moreover, the meetings themselves did not look very convincing.
Meanwhile, in Chechnya itself, an unprecedented power struggle is brewing. Kadyrov is making a last-ditch effort to place his son Adam on the throne, but by law, he can't govern the republic until he turns 30. And the Kremlin isn't particularly eager to see a third Kadyrov on the throne either. According to analysts, they've already prepared their own successor there.
Apparently, we're preparing for Ramzan Kadyrov's funeral because at the same time as reports about his serious health problems, there's an obvious promotion of this Apti Alaudinov. It seems he will be the next chief over Chechnya, according to the Kremlin's plan.
However, who will actually lead Chechnya after Kadyrov doesn't return from his next hospitalization is still unclear. There are still plenty of opponents in the region to this kind of hereditary power, which doesn't grant the republic independence. So nothing has been decided yet. And given the number of news reports about Ramzan Kadyrov's condition, we'll find out soon enough.